corresponding to the 8th day of February 2019. Today's special breakfast and class, graciously sponsored by Mr. A.B. Franco from Miami Beach. Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved father, Ezra ben Rahel, that tomorrow, Shabbat Terumah, the 4th of Adar Aleph, will be the date of his anniversary, the date of his passing. So Yiratzon, through the words of Torah and the berachot that the Kahal will recite, especially for this delicious breakfast, will be Le'ilui Nishmato. I did not have the privilege or the merit of knowing Mr. Franco Sr. Ezra ben Rahel, but I do know close enough his family, his wife Rosa, his children Abi, Joey, and Rachel. Wonderful people, good families, Baruch Hashem, generous, charitable, people with heart, people with goodwill, which is basically one of the beautiful messages of today's parasha. The Lighthouse Torah Project, Le'ilui Nishmat, Devorah Feige Bat Shemuel, and Refuah Shelema of Ora Devorah Bat Rivka. The iTorah.com presentation is Refuah Shelema, Frida Bat Sivia Tzveta, and Refuah Shelema, David Menachem Ben Devorah Leah. So in this week's parasha, and perhaps this can, in a way, hints to us about the good personality of the Franco family. As I said before, kind, generous, and I'll tell you a little personal, maybe concept that many of you remember, that before I arrived to the Edmond J. Safra Synagogue, I was the rabbi of Sha'arei Ezra in 41st Street in Miami Beach. I see some members coming from there to be with us today. And the name Sha'arei Ezra was actually in memory of Ezra ben Rahel, the person that we are honoring today. And this goes back, at least in the new location, close to 15, 16 years. And before that, in Bet Israel congregation, that this minyan of Sephardic Jews rented a space in the Ashkenazic synagogue, and Baruch Hashem, today it became a beacon of prayer, a beacon of Torah in the 41st Street area, which obviously has a lot of Yehudim, maybe not so many Sephardic people like in Aventura, but definitely plenty of Yehudim, plenty of Sephardic Jews to keep the community alive and well. And definitely, with that being said, even though you don't know the person, but the fact that a person has the zechut of having a synagogue in their name and everything that goes on there in a beautiful fashion, and I do know that many of you, sometimes when you are in that part of town or needed to catch an airport, a flight from Miami Airport, they use the services of the synagogue. So that zechut of having a shul under your name is something that is a continuous direct deposit. Can you imagine a person retires from the business and continuously have a direct deposit coming into their account? I cannot imagine, because I'm not retired. But some of you may be on that stage in life. And how happy do you become when you get your monthly check?
Social Security.
Social Security. Hashem should give refuah shelema to the Social Security.
Amen.
May be alive and well for many years to come. Be'ezat Hashem, right?
Amen.
Okay? But even that, the Social Security, let's be honest here. How big is the Social Security check? Don't tell me, I don't know. I don't want to know. Okay? But definitely you need to have a couple of things going on in order for the person to receive that kind of income. So imagine yourself, the neshama of Ezra ben Rahel alav shalom, how many dividends and how many stock options he has in the concept of tefillah, in the concept of learning, etc. So, Be'ezat Hashem, Yiratzon that the neshama of Ezra ben Rahel should have a aliyah in Gan Eden. Not that he needs it, but obviously there is room for dessert. Obviously, we also praise about his wife. And I tell you this because this is a historical fact, that when the father passed away at a very young age, the family, you have to understand, was so poor Mamash. That's what I recall vividly for many years back. That the mother used to drive the school bus from the yeshiva in South Beach. I know that yeshiva in South Beach, they are oxymoron, but the time that I'm talking about, the mid-80s or the early 80s, South Beach was a kosher place to live. My Shiva Verachot was in South Beach. Not in a nightclub, in a kosher restaurant. Relax, I know. In a kosher restaurant. In those days was all Jewish people in Washington Avenue, Alton Road, Collins Avenue. Collins Avenue, for you to know, right? Thank you so much. For you to know, Collins Avenue, South Beach, Ocean Drive, 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 5th Street had Jewish. The ladies' mikveh was on 2nd Street. The Hasidic Shtibel was on 5th Street. The synagogues, kosher markets, Jewish bookstores, back then were there. So the family, imagine yourself, when God forbid the main breadwinner leaves the world and they have young children. What are you going to do? So the mother, Mrs. Rosa Franco, when she comes to my classes in Spanish usually, drove a bus in order to bring the Jewish education to the kids at home. What do you think? That this Mesirut Nefesh, that a young mother, a widow, suddenly drives a bus for the yeshiva in order to bring food into the table. What do you think? That this sacrifice goes unnoticed? So Borei Olam bless the family, especially the son Amy that we are sponsoring today's. Obviously the rest of the family as well, but specifically with a tremendous beracha and aslaha that he says, you know what? I need to do something back for the community. I need to promote my father's memory. So we pray that HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of this family and obviously elevates the neshama of Ezra ben Rachel. Amen. Amen. And it's apropos, amen. When we come to today's parasha, the concept of the measurements of the building of the Mishkan. If we look at the measurements of the Mishkan, we're going to find something very interesting. The Torah tells us measurements. Some measurements, the Pasuk says, "Ve'asu Aron aseh shitim, amatayim b'chetzi orko, ve'ama b'chetzi rochbo." The Pasuk many times uses full measurements, and the Pasuk uses at times half measurements. And today we'll discuss very briefly, a very short Devar Torah, why half measurements? If related matters to HaKadosh Baruch Hu are always perfect, why when it came to the building of the Mishkan, you need to give me 2.5, thank you so much, 2.5, 1.5, 2.25, no quarters by half. Why the half? So I believe that it's written in the name of the Gaon of Vilna that says, Alav Shalom, that a person must always understand that our life is not perfect and our life is not complete. For example, let's talk about marriage. Simple topic.
Not so simple.
I know, simple topic to understand. It's not a simple topic. That's why inside you heard my announcement. We encourage the Kahal Kadosh to come to Sunday night magnificent lecture by Rabbi David Asher from Brooklyn, the author of Living Emunah, a fantastic speaker, someone responsible of having the world today witnessing and experiencing a revival of the topic of Emunah and Bitachon in Hashem. And the topic will be Emunah and Shalom Bayit, the perfect formula. We understand that marriage is not simple. We understand that marriage is at times challenging and complicated. That's why for marriage you need a GPS. What are the things to do? What are the things not to do? That is a different topic. We'll save it for some other time. But Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Shehakol Nihiyah B'Baruch. Amen. Thank you. But we understand that the true completion of a person, when does it happen? Through marriage. And that's what the Gemara says, and that's something that we discussed not long ago. That's for example. Or a minyan. You need to have 10 people to make a minyan. You cannot have a minyan without 10 people. Same thing for the Sefer Torah. Same thing for Zimun. You need to have 3 people to make Zimun. Or 10 people to different type of Zimun. So we understand that supplementing our life in different areas is required. For example, I say one more. We discussed today in the Gemara class upstairs, Masechet Ta'anit, what are the requirements of a Hazan? What are the requirements that need to be met for a Hazan to be considered a good Hazan?
Has to be married.
Number 1, ideally to be married with children and to have Irat Shamayim, to be an honest person. Why? Because if he doesn't have the minimum requirement, what do you think that happens with our tefillot? They don't go nowhere. And Baruch Hashem, we are fortunate enough in our synagogue, as well as many other synagogues of the world, that the official Hazanim, and I'm not referring to a Hazan that goes in sporadically for a Minha and Arvit, which even that should be a proper person. Not everyone who knows how to read automatically it's qualified to be a Hazan. I remember many years ago, Hacham Shhebar in Argentina, Alav Shalom, I'm sure many of you remember him. Hacham Ishaq Shebar, correct, did not allow certain Hazanim to perform in the synagogue because they will perform in Arab gatherings and in Arabic nightclubs. They will be hired, the Arabs, the Muslim, Bnei Ishmael, they will hire Jewish Hazanim to sing. So the rabbi said to these Hazanim, you can't be dancing on 2 weddings. If you want to follow that route, say goodbye to your position in the knees. And if you're willing to give up that, then you're welcome to be a Hazan in our synagogue. And the rabbi, what did he do? He activated a halakha that says, Hazan, kolo na'im, beto rekam, pirko na'eh. All these are statements that the Talmud said in today's Gemara, Ta'anit 17 and 16b, describing that a Hazan, as the Pelei Yoes writes, is a Kohen Gadol. Can you understand this concept? You open the Pelei Yoes, topic of Shaliach Sibur, and it says, a Hazan hu ke Kohen Gadol. Can you imagine that the Hazan is a Kohen Gadol? The Hazan, the rabbi could be Mashiach. Good answer.
Yes, yes.
You approve it?
Yes, he started.
Okay, he asked a good question. Okay, he asked a good question. If the Hazan is the Kohen Gadol, so what the rabbi represents? Mashiach.
Depends on the rabbi.
Mashiach for you, for your kahal, not for the entire Jewish people. I know, mafi mitlak, I know, thank you. But Hamavdil, let's put the jokes outside. What was the mission of the Kohen Gadol? To represent Am Israel in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why the Hazan? In Jewish law it's called Shaliach Sibur. For this particular reason. He is representative of the Sibur. Let's say you need to meet a judge. Are you going to take someone that just graduated, or are you going to take someone that is seasoned and experienced?
A lawyer.
Hazaku Baruch. You're going to take a lawyer that is able to represent you. So I believe that the reason why, now we understand why the Gaon of Vilna says that the reason why the Torah is giving us the measurements in half to tell us there is always room to grow. You know, another one, it says the wings on the cherubim. The cherubim were, if you remember, the Aron HaKodesh had a cover, and then you had two baby faces facing each other, the cherubs, cherubim in Hebrew, from the Perashah, and they were having wings. And the question asked, why you put the face of a baby? Short answer, it says, like a baby knows that there is room, there is need to grow. A baby grows slowly. A person also needs to know that our mission in life is to grow. To get stuck, that's suitable for traffic. For spiritual life, there is no such a thing. I reached this level, dayeno. I'm better than my next door neighbor, dayeno. I'm better than my parents, dayeno. Haz v'shalom. That is not a valid statement. A person needs to find a way to grow. Where do we learn that from? And that's, by the way, is the meaning of the wings. Why the cherubim have wings? For the same reason. What's the purpose of a wing? When a bird has a baruch. So a person needs to know that we need to aim high. Like you in business, you aim high, so to speak, to get the best price, to get merchandise, the best deal. In Avodat Hashem is exactly the same. Where do we learn this from? From Aleinu L'Shabeach. We say in our daily prayer, that we discussed this the other day, so I'm not going to go back on what I said before. But at the end of the first paragraph of Aleinu L'Shabeach says, Ki Hashem hu Elokim, b'shamayim mima'al, ve'al ha'aretz mitachat, en od. There is nothing else in life but to know that Hashem exists, and Hashem runs the world, and Hashem is in the heavens and on the earth. But the Mefarshim tells us, b'shamayim mima'al, ve'al ha'aretz mitachat. You know what this means? B'shamayim, in spiritual matters, mima'al. We need to see who is above us, so I'm able to climb to that level. Be'al ha'aretz, and when it comes to financial matters, mitachat. See who is below you to appreciate the blessing that Hashem gives us. The problem with us is that sometimes we look up to the one that has more money, and we look down to the one that does more. Oh, this guy is a fanatic, this guy is a black hat, this guy is a Taliban, Haz v'shalom. We use all kinds of words and derogatory titles, which seems from Aleinu L'Shabeach that is asur, that is wrong. Completely the opposite. But in finances, finances, quickly, I tell you a pirush that brought down in the Mishnayot. How does a person understand what's the meaning of death? We don't understand, but we understand physically. God forbid. Of course. But we need to be realistic with ourselves. Sofa Adam Lamut. That part of life is the transition. But I'm not going to talk about that. What happens when a person, Haz v'shalom, is being called up to heaven? Who goes with the person when a person is being called up to meet the Creator? Let's 1 second. Let's analyze this. What about the money? So we know what happens with the money. The money stays in the bank. The money stays behind. What about your family? Haz v'shalom. The family escorts us till the opening of the grave. But who is the one that goes with us? The Torah, Mitzvot, and Ma'asim Tovim. Those are our biggest partners and our best investment in our life. Why? Because they are the one who actually paved the way for the neshama of the person. And now with this we are able to understand why the Torah gives you half a measure. Like Mahasita Shekel. We're going to be learning in 2 weeks from now Perashat Kitisa. Remember Perashat Kitisa? What is Perashat Kitisa? Give Mahasita Shekel. How could it be that I give half a coin? Short answer, because when I give half a coin, I feel a sense of incompletion. And I need your half in order for my half to become a whole. That brings a sense of unity and harmony and growth and development, etc. That is a very beautiful message rather that we find in today's Perashat Terumah, which is obviously giving the importance of the heart. Kechol asher idebenu libo, the presence of the heart, giving with happiness, giving with joy, etc. Let's go quickly, Rabotai, to the Zohar of today. The Zohar of today on Friday talks about the concept, obviously, of Shabbat, how Shabbat has a direct influence in the life of the person. And the Zohar Kadosh writes that the day of Shabbat not only brings influence in the person's body, but brings in the influence, so to speak, in the neshama of the person. And there is a godly spirit or a godly light, so to speak, that brings an extra added measure of holiness and kedusha to the person, to the point that the learning of the person does on a Shabbat has far greater influence than the learning that a person does during the week. But the Zohar says that there is a mandatory, condition that a person must have on a Shabbat in order for the Shabbat day and night to bring the desired effect in the life of the person. What is this component? The Zohar says, Simcha, happiness. Happiness is not a new topic. We discussed this topic several times, especially when it came to Rosh Chodesh Adar. The halakha says, Mishenichnas Adar, marbim besimcha. Marbim besimcha. We increase in happiness. Why so much emphasis is given to the topic of simcha, of happiness? There are many answers. One answer, the Gemara writes, a person who wants to attract godliness to their life must be happy. Must be happy. Why? Nobody likes a face of Tisha B'Av. Do you like Tisha B'Av face? Do you like Tisha B'Av face? Nobody likes Tisha B'Av face. Tisha B'Av face means long, sour, bitter face. What face do we like? Purim. Happiness. That's the reason why your cheeks have no bones, so you can smile. That's the reason why. Can you imagine if your cheeks have bones? You will not look at beautiful smile. How can he is able to smile? Because he has no bones. That's the reason why this is the way the shape of the face of the person is. We have the skull behind the skin. You have no bones. You have bones?
Only over here.
On top, but that doesn't affect your smile. If you have here, then you can smile. That's what Allah makes it. So the person, sure, emit.
Wow.
And that's why when a person gets upset, what happens? His eyes go backwards, you shrink your forehead, and your nose comes out more.
And you start crying.
And you start crying. All those are physical, right. All those are physical changes that the body experiences between happiness and sadness. That's why David HaMelech says, "Abdu et Hashem besimcha." But if God forbid, the Shabbat day comes and the person is unhappy because the Shabbat, you still have 10 hours to go on the Shabbat, and the person feels that Shabbat is jail, that's a very unfortunate and inappropriate feeling to have. That is the reason why in Jewish law, many things we don't do on Shabbat because are not suitable to the condition of the Shabbat. In Halakha, this is known as Obdin Dehol. Swimming, playing golf, playing tennis, all these things are okay for the week. Playing cards too, for the week, not for Shabbat. You understand? Why? Because Shabbat is the day that we are spending time along with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if Haz v'Shalom, on the day of the Shabbat, we act, in a way that is not suitable, so what happened to the holiness of the Shabbat? At the end of the day, we cannot forget the pasuk that says, Beni uben bnei Israel od hi le'olam. Not only that, there is one more component. The component of emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, before the Saudah of Shabbat, there are people who say extra prayers. Atkinu Saudata dimhemenuta. Let us prepare the Saudah of Emunah. Why Saudah of Emunah? We mentioned this a while back, but the short connection is, what is Shabbat? Shabbat is, I believe that Borei Olam created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day is the day of rest. So when we celebrate the Shabbat, when we are mimicking HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the way that God rested, we rest, and we put some limitations, which they are limitations for one benefit, for us to derive the maximum spiritual benefit that the Shabbat brings upon the person. So how many components we have? We have the component of Simcha, the component of happiness, the component of Emunah, but there is one more, the Zohar says, that on the Shabbat meal, we have 3 meals, in which each meal connects with Avotenu HaKedoshim, Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov. And guess what? You cannot say, I like Abraham Avinu, I don't like Ishak, I don't like Yaakov. Haz v'shalom. God forbid. Every Jew, male or female, has DNA of Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov. And how do we know that? How do we know, at this moment, for example, we are activating Ishak and Yaakov, not Abraham. Abraham, we did it before. When you give charity, that's the DNA of Abraham Avinu. When you do a favor to someone, the Hesed is Abraham Avinu. But what about now? You're activating Ishak and Yaakov. Yaakov, because we are learning Torah. And Ishak, because you are here learning. You could have eaten a delicious breakfast, take a sambusak, shakshuka, a muffin, eat it, and ma'asalame. And you left. But what did you decide to do? You stayed. Staying, that means exercising self-control and making the right decision and acting with discipline. Guess what? All this is Hakavino. Every time we exercise our discipline, meaning to say, we get up early, we come to pray. That is Hakavino. We are about to do an Avon, and we say, no, I'm going to exercise self-control. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to look at it. Guess what? We are activating the midah of Ishak Avinu. Every time we sit down to learn Torah, we are activating the midah of Yaakov Avinu. Guess what? On Shabbat, we have a bonus round. That when you eat the Seudah, you are charging your batteries of Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov. 3 of them. And Mosei Shabbat, David HaMelech Alav Shalom. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Rabotai. Sometimes I feel that Shabbat is too short, especially in the winter. In the summer, it's super long. It's long.
Spring and fall is a good time.
But I will tell you one secret. The longer the Shabbat lasts, the better is for everyone. That's why the Zohar said elsewhere that a person should be careful of 3 things. Remember what were the 3 things? Zohar in Bereshah Bereshit. Number 1, when it comes to disposing of bread, make sure that the bread is broken into small pieces. Because disposing of bread, big pieces, could, God forbid, attract poverty to the person. What else the Zohar said? Don't curse yourself. Never. And needless to say, cursing someone else. That is also dangerous for the person. But what was the 3rd one the Zohar says? Don't run away from the Shabbat. Don't escape from the Shabbat. Why? Because as long as we are keeping Shabbat on the planet Earth, the heavenly judgment in heaven is in judicial recess.
Really?
Yes.
That's why they do Rabbeinu Tam?
That's why they do Rabbeinu. No. Rabbeinu Tam is for a different halakhic reason. But that's why the Zohar says, don't run away from Shabbat. In other words, Shabbat finishes at 7:45, okay. If you go, the Hazan went 1 extra minute for Rabbi to Abdallah, it's not the end of the world. Don't kill the guy. That's what I'm saying. Why? Because if God forbid a person finishes Shabbat before Shabbat finishes, what happens? First, the person may be desecrating the Shabbat. He said, you observed the Shabbat 23 hours, but the last hour you desecrated the Shabbat. That's not called Shomer Shabbat. But the Zohar says that the fire of judgment in heaven is sponsored by the one that finished the Shabbat early. Imagine yourself, how happy does a person feels when you donate something nice to the synagogue. Okay, and you see a plaque with your name. You feel very happy.
Very nice.
But what if I put up a sign that says, the rabbi's headache today happened because Mr. So and so. Can you imagine such a sign? So imagine now in Gehinnom, the fire of Gehinnom today ignited by Mr. So and so that finished Shabbat before the halachic time. That is a place where you don't want your name to be there. Haz v'shalom. I'll tell you one more. Bonus round. At the end of the year, the person gives the neshama, I should say, gives a spiritual accounting, Chaim Tovim, of the mitzvot done throughout the year. Because at the end of the day, Rosh Hashanah comes, right? When Rosh Hashanah comes, what do we expect? We expect to have a wonderful year. But how the Shamayim determines the next year? They look at last year. It's like a tax return. What do? You give your accountant the tax return. You give the accountant the numbers, income, expenses, deductions, etc. And he plays with all the numbers and creates something known as a tax return. In Shamayim, there is also a tax return. This tax return is called Rosh Hashanah. So I present myself in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, Yosef, you wanted this XYZ type of year. Let me check on your credit number. The higher your credit score is, the better interest rate you get. If you lease a car, right, you apply for a mortgage, what is the first thing they do?
Experian.
They run a credit. TransUnion, Experian, whatever company you use, Equifax, whatever company you use, they tell you more or less how high of a risk are you. The higher the score, the less risk. The lower the score, the higher risk. Income, revolving line of credit, it's a whole Megillah, and they make a decision based on all that. So Shamayim then scrutinizes all of the mitzvot of the Torah, all of the mitzvot rather, that we did. Okay, how much you give charity this year? $18,000. Chazak u'baruch. Beautiful. Did you honor your parents? Yes, you did. Very good. Were you kind to your wife and children? Yes. If you say no, that's not good. That's not a good answer. Haz v'shalom. Haz v'shalom. That's not a good answer. But there are two more questions that they will ask. Shabbat and Tefillah. Did you finish your prayer? When you pray, did you finish or not? Who answers that question? Alenu leshabeach. They are the two witnesses in the Tefillah. That's why the word Alenu leshabeach and Al ken nekavelach begins with the Ain and finishes with the Dalet. They are the two witnesses, testify that we did the complete prayer. But then it comes Shabbat. Did this person observe Shabbat? Yes, overall. How many Shabbatot of the year did this person observe? He said all. Okay? Okay, answer. Okay, how many Shabbatot are in the year usually?
52 plus the holidays, no?
Okay, 52. Sometimes 55. This year, 55. Because we have a Jewish leap year. But there is never less than 52. But there is a way that a person can have 47 Shabbatot or 58 Shabbatot. And how do you do that? If you leave 52 Saturdays, you should have 52 Shabbatot. But that's not the way the Shabbat works in Shamayim. There is a halacha that says, Tosefet Shabbat. The importance of extending the Shabbat before and after. So Shamayim calculates, when it came to Friday night, who welcomed who? Did the Shabbat welcome you, or you welcome the Shabbat? What's the difference is, when did you get home on a Friday afternoon? Did you get home 5 minutes before candle lighting?
18 minutes.
You ran late, or you welcome the Shabbat early? Guess what? Every second that we welcome the Shabbat earlier than the Shabbat officially starts, we get extra bonus points. Same thing with Mosai Shabbat. استنى شوية روحي. Thank you. Thank you. The same thing applies with Mosai Shabbat. Let's say Shabbat finish 7:05. But by the time you finish Havdalah in the Knis and you get home, it's 7:30. So you got an extra 25 minutes of bonus. Do you understand? So if we accumulate the few minutes before Shabbat and the few minutes after Shabbat, at the end of the year, we can have 2-3 extra Shabbatot because of our observance of the Shabbat. But God forbid, if a person doesn't welcome the Shabbat on time, he goes to the shower when the wife is doing candle lighting, that means that this person is not going to be ready for Shabbat on a timely manner. And if a person, Shabbat afternoon, says, okay, Shabbat afternoon, big deal, okay, I'm stay home, I don't go to shul, no Saudah Shalishit, okay, it's already dark, let me do Arvit, but Shabbat really didn't finish, that's a halachic problem. And that's what the Zohar Kadosh says. Shabbat is happiness. Shabbat is emunah. Shabbat is activating Abraham, Ishaq, and Yaakov. And Shabbat is the bonding with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only it's a gift, it's a special gift for Am Israel, as the Pasuk says, Beni o ben Bnei Israel, od hi le'olam. A covenant between God and the Jewish people. I have a few more minutes. I suggest you to put on the bulletproof vest today. You zipped in, okay? Okay? Beautiful. The Musar of today is going to give us a full description describing the dangers of anger in the life of the person. Kaas. We already started to talk this topic 2 days in a row. But today we'll continue from Sha'arei Kedusha. The Gemara writes in Masechet Pesachim 66b. When it comes to the topic of anger, Im Hachamhu Chochmato Mistaleket. If a person is a wise man, the wisdom leaves him. Im Navihu, if the person is a prophet, the prophecy leaves him. Why? Short answer. When a person is calm, you think better, your heart functions better, and the cells of the brain are stable. But when, God forbid, anger takes over the person becomes agitated, the brain cells are not stable, they are jumping back and forth physically and emotionally, and that doesn't give the person the clarity of the mind to be able to make the proper decisions. That is what the Gemara writes in Masechet Pesachim. But now we're going to come to the Gemara in Berachot that says, Lo tirtach Lo tehita. Don't get heated up, and you will not come to sin. Comes the Zohar Kadosh, and it says, and I'm going to give it to you the way it is. So this way, we use this as an encouragement to truly understand that anger can determine the goodness of the person. The goodness as a person and the goodness as a Jew. Although there are many elements and many areas in life that determine the goodness of the person, but what I'm trying to say is as follows. One of the misunderstanding that sometimes people have is, I pray, I learn, I give charity, I'm okay. Guess what? You're not okay. You're not okay until we become better people. And better people doesn't mean only learning, does not mean only being a good provider to your wife and children, does not mean I'm giving charity, does not mean I help the needy or I go to the hospital to visit people. All of that is beautiful, but there is one area which I think is neglected by many, is the topic of how does a person behaves as a person.
Midot.
Midot of the person, the character trait. Are you patient? Are you tolerant? Or you are narcissistic? Are you lazy? Or you have alacrity? Are you stingy? Or are you generous? Are you happy? Or you are sad? Are you calm? Are you easygoing? Or you're a tough cookie? All these words that I just mentioned, they follow the banner of the midot of the person. Like there is mitzvot to fulfill, there is midot to work on. And this is what the Zohar Kadosh is going to talk today. This is the Musar, but the Musar quotes the full version of the Zohar. And it says, Zohar Perashat Tesaveh. I'm going to translate literally what it says to create an awareness of how much effort we must invest of not allowing us to get upset. One thing is to be disappointed, one thing to be upset, or one thing to be hot-tempered. Okay? So let's read the Zohar of today. So it says, Ibarnash Kais, if a person gets angry, Akar mineh mishnateh, mehila, Akar mineh nishmateh ila'a kadisha, the person is uprooting the holy soul provided to him by the Almighty, and places instead a dark soul that comes from the neshama, from the sitra ahara. I know that I'm using a very strong language, and I know that I'm using terms that are scary. You know what's the meaning of sitra ahara? In English means the other side. Not even the Satan. The dark forces of evil. In other words, the Zohar says, let me go back one step. And I started to talk about this yesterday because this is the third day in a row that the Musar is telling us, calm yourself. Be calm. Don't get upset. Don't insult. Don't break items. Don't destroy things. Don't ruin people's lives. This was the Gemara of yesterday. So today the Zohar says, what is the consequence of anger? Why does a person get angry? Why?
They're disappointed in something. They didn't get what they anticipated.
It didn't happen what they anticipated. It didn't go their way, etc. I will tell you something that for me is easy to say, perhaps, and for some people may be easy to say as well, but some people may have a difficulty in digesting this. But this is the bottom line. If we have emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have faith in God, and we understand that everything that happens is for good. And everything that happens is for a good reason. And everything that happens is because God approved it. So why should I get upset? It's not easy. Again, maybe 10 years ago, I will not be able to say it with the same conviction I'm saying it now. And maybe 30 years ago, Bichlal, this thought may have never crossed my mind. But as we learn and we become more aware of how important it is to have a combination of Torah, praying, and refinement of our character, if we have emunah, anger should not even be a problem in our life. So the fact that people get upset or are hot tempered, it means that there is some problem in the person. I tell you a short story from David HaMelech. When David HaMelech was a king, the Pasuk tells us that Shimei ben Gera came and cursed David HaMelech. He cursed him with the worst words. By Kalelehu bo kelala nimreset. He called him promiscuous. He called him a mamzer. He called him a criminal. Can you imagine? You call the king of Israel all of those derogatory words?
Yes.
Hazak u'baruch. According to Jewish law, the king has the power to execute him. Why? Because he insulted God. When you insult the king, you're insulting God. But what David HaMelech says to Abishai ben Seruya, his nephew was a general in the army, a skilled warrior, he says, why are you going to kill him? Ki Hashem amar lo kalel. God is sending me a message through him. Now, you may say, Rabbi, come on, are you telling me that I am David HaMelech? Yes, you are. Every one of us has a DNA of David HaMelech. You think David HaMelech was born David HaMelech? David HaMelech became David HaMelech. David HaMelech had every possibility in the book not to be David HaMelech. He could have been a troublemaker, could have been an abandoned child, deprived child, neglected child. He was till the age of 28. His father ignored him. Haz v'shalom. Obviously, today, a father ignores a son, you can say Kaddish. God forbid. We don't ignore. And maybe a generation or two ago, these things would not even be in conversation. But today, we live in a very sensitive generation that parents become better parents because of the children. So the Zohar of today says, so what happens? This is a person that rebelled against his master. Because when we are getting upset and acting in a crazy way, and unfortunately as a rabbi, I deal with a lot of cases of anger. In Shalom Bayit especially. And sometimes, you know, when they see me, they put a mask. When they are at home, they become the Incredible Hulk. Hamavdil. True story, by the way. What do you think Incredible Hulk changed his face? Changed the color of the skin? Where do you think the movie script came from? From the Zohar that we're learning today. That's the basic script of the movie, The Incredible Hulk. He changes his personality. Think about the movie. Don't go watch it. Take my word for it. Okay? What happened? He will get upset. He will change colors. He will get upset. Yes, the scientist, correct. Okay? One time he was normal. Anything that made him upset or started to explode internally, what happened with him? He became, his body changed, his face changed, his color of the skin changed, his garment got torn, and he destroyed everything. All that comes from the Talmud. All that comes from the Talmud. It's from yesterday. I tell you quickly the source. That was yesterday's Gemara mentioned in the Talmud. Right here. Masechet Nedarim. and the source of today, the Zohar, he's possessed by a force of darkness. In the movie, they made him green. Come on. You were a child once, right? In my time, they used to show this. Okay? So it says, this person rebelled against the Creator. Why? Because you are saying, God, I'm not happy with what you did. I know that it's heavy what I'm saying. But it continues. The Zohar says, so what it should be our behavior when we see someone acting in this way? You know what the Zohar says? Run away. Run away from this type of person. Keep your distance. Because you don't want that rotten attitude should affect your life. Not only that, you're not supposed to look at this person either. Because as the face of Avodah Zarah. Yes. I know that it's heavy. I know that it's heavy. And I'm sorry for that. And it says, Asur leistakel befanav. You're not allowed to look at their face. I know, the music is telling me, Rabbi, take it easy.
Press the volume. Press the volume key.
Thank you.
$18.
Thank you. Okay, you can pay the $18.
How is shul? It's the fine.
Right.
$18.
The Zohar goes further, but I'm afraid of going further.
Go for it, Rabbi.
No. You know, the doctor, when he gives anesthesia to the patient, there is no mitzvah to give more anesthesia than required. So the Musar continues in plain English. It says, don't learn how not to get upset. You know, the Gemara tells us, we finish with a happy statement about Rabbi Akiva and Nahum Ish Gamzu. Gamzu Letova. Why was he called Gamzu? Gamzu simple because he always looked at things positive. The deal fell through. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Maybe the money wasn't going to be spent good, so God prevented it. Okay, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe something else will happen later. Now, I'm not saying that with just one class like today, a person is going to say, from now on, I'm not going to get upset anymore. But you know what? We can definitely take baby steps. And especially for those that have a short fuse. Have you heard of this statement, right, in English? They say short fuse. Yeah. Short fuse means that it takes little to blow up. To explode, has v'shalom. I hope that no one fits this criteria. But if God forbid someone does, pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for help. Like you pray for Parnasah, pray for help in anger management. Not only that, take upon yourself the first hour of the day. You're going to try to be as positive and pleasant. Try it for a week or two. And then go an hour and a half to 2 hours. And the next time, you try. It's not impossible. It's possible. As long as we put the mind and the effort. Or penalize yourself, like I said yesterday. Every time you get upset or you get angry and you know that you're acting in a way that is not suitable according to what we learned today, penalize yourself. Like we mentioned yesterday in the Pelei Yoris. Okay, my dear friends, have a peaceful Shabbat. Have a happy life. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen. We're going to say a Shabbat.